Bow. Bow.
Did you go to Gal's page?
I did.
Call him a pussy?
What?
Did you?
Oh, we're on the
Sorry.
on the air right now, Coach Kevin. We're going to talk about this. This is going to be the subject of the day.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. Let's see.
Topic of the day.
Topic of the oh, that's loud. We're good. We're live.
Do public figures owe their fans anything?
If they want to keep fans, yes, but not like
Oh.
like there's not like a direct debt. Like if you take some money out from the bank, you owe the bank some money, right? Like you got to pay it back, or they're gonna
Yeah.
they're gonna repossess whatever collateral you put up, right?
Yes. There's nothing written
If
down.
it's an interesting kind of dynamic with fans. Like people don't really talk about this very often. The relationship between public figures and their fans, and what a public figure might or might not owe, because they don't assume, like when you go and you play a sport, or you're right, like, or you're even a politician. I mean, if you're a politician, you're looking for votes, right? You need people's votes to put you in office. So you often will make campaign promises, and if you don't follow up on your promises, and people think, oh, you broke your promises, and they're just not going to vote for you again, right? If enough people. I mean, with an athlete or like a entertainment figure, like they don't come out and be like, please vote for me or whatever. They're just, people like them because they're good at what they do, right? They win.
Usually.
But like, why would you, like, give me an example of what you think? Like Charles Barkley, do you remember this one?
I remember Charles Barkley.
Saying, I'm not a role model.
That's a good one.
This was I think it was a Nike ad where he came out, and his like thing was like, I'm not a role model. Like if you're a parent your child, parent your own kids. Don't.
But like, can you really just like declare that you're not a role model?
Yes. Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
You can't.
You can. Why not?
Because kids will, if you're in the public light, people are going to make you a role model.
Well, that's fine, but that's you, right? Like you decide. Not like I'm not.
But you can't decide that you're not.
Well, but
a role model.
what he's saying is that like I'm not. I don't put myself out as
what he's saying is I'm not trying to be a good role model.
I'm not being trying to. He's not trying to be a role model. Period.
I disagree with that.
Well, whatever. But I think that was the import of it. Like, and essentially, he's like, raise your own damn kids. Like, don't.
I mean, I'm not completely dismissing his point. One should be careful about the role models that one chooses, and if this person is being like, hey, I'm not trying to be that person, then maybe you could be more selective if you had chosen him. But I don't know, like, I feel like if you're in that position, in that role, there is a level of responsibility. A level. I don't know how
Declaring that you're not a role model is just an attempt to disavow responsibility.
Who's that, Cameron?
That's Cameron.
Yeah.
I think it really depends on, like, it's assumed in our society that, let's see, that athletes and like entertainment, like actors and are kind of role models, but I don't know why we think that.
Because they are. That's like.
Well, the fact is that people do
responsible.
look up to them, right? Yeah, you're right. But the fact is that whenever you're in the public eye, you're gonna have a lot of people that look up to you, for good or for bad, right? Like people look up to Kim Kardashian. Okay, right? Like if I were out picking now there's some things you could say like, hey, she's a brilliant entrepreneur and she's made a lot of money. Okay.
Yeah, but like if you're
I don't think
a
she's
basketball player, like that's what you do. You play in front of a national audience.
Yes.
That's part of your job.
Yes.
Is to be. You are a role model.
No,
like,
part of your job is to go and put the basket into the hoop.
Yeah,
That's your job.
In front of who? Nobody.
Well,
Like
you're
in a
an
box with
entertainer.
no cameras. Like,
Well,
are they just like having the game?
Yeah, but there's lots of people.
They send the stats out.
There's lots of people who I don't think they're good people, but they're good at entertainment.
Yeah.
Right?
But
I don't
like,
look at them as role models. I'm like, that person might be a detestable person, but I really like the music that they make.
if you're in the public spot, you're like, you're a role model. That's what you are. Like you are.
You're a what?
You're a role model. Like if people are looking at you,
Yeah.
they're using you as like a reference point as far as like how normal people act or how.
What if I just want to see some football players go and beat the hell out of each other? What about MMA fighters? Are they role models?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, they are.
They're terrible role models.
I'm not saying
No.
that they're good or bad. I'm saying they are. Like,
Well, they are. That's right. But so let's say I'm a fighter. Let's take MMA. I think because I kind of agree with you that if you are a professional like basketball or football player, like you kind of know that part and parcel of the deal is like little kids are gonna look up to you.
It's not even just little kids. It's like people. You know?
Yeah, I know, but grown people, I don't know. I
18-year-olds need role models too.
very few like I can't think of anyone who is playing professional sports who's getting paid by the team because they're a good role model versus they're productive
I'm
on the
not
field.
saying that's why they're there. I'm just saying that they are there and they are role models.
They are. Okay, so, but the question to me goes back to even knowing, like no matter what you do, right? No matter how you hold out, you might be somebody's, or represent yourself, you might be somebody's role model.
Yeah.
And,
That's
right?
the idea. Everyone's a role model to someone. You
That's-
can't just shirk your role model.
But does that create the responsibility, right? Just because I know, right? Like, so for example, like, we teach kids in jiu-jitsu. We are role models.
Yeah.
Like when I sign up when people sign up their contracts, they're signing up for jiu-jitsu lessons though. They're not signing up for, hey, I want you, Rich and Kevin, are you guys gonna be good role models for my kids?
That's
right?
a good. I mean, they could probably ask some questions about that.
But they're not, like, I'm not contracting to be a good role model.
Depends on.
That's implicit. That is implicit. I would say that most people would assume that I will be a good. I'm not gonna come in here drinking and smoking and cursing in front of the kids.
It's like part of the package.
But it's an implied, right?
Yeah.
It's not. Nobody's like, hey, listen, I'm looking for a good role model. This is role model. I mean, that would be a funny name for an academy, like role model. Haha, get it, roll.
Oh, that's a person's Instagram, I think. Anyway.
But like we were like, hey, listen, we're gonna be good, or big brother jiu-jitsu, right? Or we're gonna be good big brothers, you know? But we don't explicitly say that we're gonna be role models, but we are. You're right. We are just like no different than really.
It would be weird.
And we're closer to the kids than we are that athletes are closer to the role because they don't like no one goes to a baseball game to have like good role modeling.
But the kids aren't like paying attention to me as much as they are their favorite athlete. Their favorite.
Some of them don't have favorite athletes.
I mean, I don't know.
Like I remember as a kid, my favorite athlete was Magic Johnson, right? And of course, I was totally oblivious to all the things that Magic Johnson was doing that were not really good citizen things.
What was he doing?
He messed around with a lot of. He was what's the word? Not profligate. That means you waste a lot of money. Promiscuous.
Yeah.
He was an NBA player.
And that's bad.
Well, I mean, promiscuity is, I would say. I mean, he wound up getting AIDS from it, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of a destructive behavior.
It's definitely newsworthy, though.
Yes, but it didn't get a lot of play. I don't know why you're asking about newsworthiness.
I don't know. Like, why would someone's promiscuity be in the news? Honestly, I guess
everybody's promiscuous. If you're a public figure and you're promiscuous, you are going to be in the news.
Yeah, I guess.
Especially if you hold yourself out as a role model or as some sort of moral,
I'm not saying it should be done.
What?
But I don't know.
There's promiscuous and then there's like.
I'm not saying it's
then
not.
There's cheating on your spouse.
I'm not saying it won't like sell newspapers, but as far as like what is newsworthy, though, I feel like it is. But anyway,
it can be. It totally can be. If you're like a priest or a religious figure, you hold yourself out as a moral authority.
This is Magic Johnson. He's a basketball player. Like, who cares? Like, I don't know.
Well, I don't know. You're the one who's saying that all these players are role models.
Yeah,
not me.
like,
I'm taking the opposite.
I mean, this is a different
I personally
issue.
didn't care.
I'm not saying he should or should not be promiscuous. I'm saying, like, I don't get. No, I do understand why it's in the news because it sells papers, but
it's probably people are interested in
it. Yeah, and it's just like, why? Who cares? Like,
because
who cares?
people like to pry into people's personal lives.
But yeah, I don't know.
And feel like the rich and famous and popular are fallible just like a normal human being.
That's weird. I don't know. I think that's weird.
I mean,
I'm not condoning the action.
I don't,
I think I'm just questioning the overall intent behind it.
Behind what?
Like the printing of the news that someone is promiscuous. Anyway, we're going way off topic
That's what I was just gonna say, that like we're leaving our original conversation of
I tend to
obligation of role models, if there is any.
No, we're kind of.
Or what the source of that is. And I guess you're saying that
If someone's a bad role model, should they be publicly outed as such? Is it like
if they represent themselves as a role model.
was he?
Who?
Magic Johnson.
No, I don't
Was he
think
like?
so.
Was he like? I'm gonna like try to change the world with his
No, I mean,
behaviors.
I don't. Excuse me. I don't. I mean, I don't think any less of him, really. I mean, not having been an NBA player, I don't really, can't really judge him.
Was it just because it was he had the HIV and it was
What?
like it was weird back then because he was like one of the first public people who got it.
I think initially in that time period, HIV was something that was considered to be a gay disease.
Yeah.
And so
And he was like.
And so he actually, my recollection, I could be wrong, I think he was the one that came forward and said, no, I messed around a lot on the road.
Was he?
Cheated on my wife. I
Was
think
he-
that's right.
Was he just trying to say that he wasn't gay?
Yes.
basically?
Yes, I think that would be my strong, my interpretation of the whole thing.
That makes sense.
Because that was the first, and a lot of people in the NBA, this was very controversial. They said they didn't want to play with,
Yeah.
including, I think, maybe even Charles Barkley.
Did they not want to play because he had HIV or because they thought he might be gay?
I mean, I don't think anyone came out and said, I don't want to play with a gay guy in the NBA, but I suspect that there was a motivating factor at that point. Yes. I mean, you still don't really have a lot of professional ball players who are out, who are open.
I don't follow enough ball sports to.
I mean, I can't think of any. I mean, there are a lot of people who used to play who came out subsequently, but there aren't a lot of openly homosexual male players that I know of. I mean, I don't follow sports that closely either, but I think it would be one of those things that it would punch through just the sports media and into general, like if a star player were to come out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Especially, I mean, the NFL has had people who've come out subsequently after they've retired. But yeah, so going back to I think you're right that people will look up to you when you're in the public eye, for good or for bad, but I still don't know, and look, it's good marketing for them, right? Like, a lot of these athletes are getting paid far more in their endorsement deals than they are in their salaries, right? In their contracts. So it benefits them financially to be that good role model, right? Or to appear to be that good role model.
Well, we had like a similar conversation yesterday about the Gina Carano.
What's that?
Just public role model. She said a bunch of things that was weird, and I don't know.
Well, I mean, it's you work for a film studio, right? You work for a media company. Your public statements are going to be scrutinized, and if they think that what you're saying is bad for their business, they're probably going to fire you.
Yeah.
And that's their prerogative, like it or not. The First Amendment does not protect you against, the repercussions, the professional repercussions of saying things that are controversial.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's just
The way things are.
this is the plus and the pro and the con of working or living in a relatively capitalist society is that the companies can make their own decisions. But I don't want to slip into politics, so we talk about too much politics. I want to talk about jiu-jitsu politics, Kevin. Right? So the big kerfuffle today.
Kerfuffle.
Do you want to intro? Now here's the thing. Here's a rule. And I'm going to abide by this, and I know you will anyway. But just to make it clear, we're going to agree not to say anything about these two individuals that we would not say if they were standing right in front of us.
All right.
Right? So we've got to be respectful, right? I want to have And I'm saying this right now. Why? Because I want to hold myself accountable beforehand to make sure I'm not saying anything that's
probably because
ridiculous.
I said something in jest right as the video started, and
Yes.
I didn't know that the thing was playing. And so if anyone caught that,
I mean, this is streaming,
I
so
was.
it was a joke.
It was a joke.
It was a joke.
Please don't kill me.
You know, but I think it's important. You know, this is the thing. We were talking about this beforehand, and then I went on to the Facebook page, and I was reading some of the comments on this gentleman's Facebook, and I was like, "There's no way you would say that if Andre Galvao was right in the room with you.
Oh yes.
You're like, you would not call him anything. You would be like, yes or no, sir. You know.
Yeah.
So the big news. Go ahead.
Oh, am I saying it?
If you want.
Oh.
You introduced it anyway.
I guess.
To me. You brought it
Well,
up.
Andre is, I guess, only doing the ADCC super fight with Gordon. If he is the prize $1 million, or is it just to fight at all?
I thought, well,
Something about.
I'd
$1
assume
million.
it's got to be to fight.
It's
you know?
either $1 million prize or $1 million.
Either way, he's demanding to have a payday that is far. I mean, I don't know what the Abu Dhabi absolute or the super fight champion usually wins.
50,000.
Is it 50K? So usually it's 50K to win, which is pretty good money. That's one match.
Yeah.
It is the match of the year usually.
And for a match, that's great.
That's a big payday.
Yeah.
I would go out and say that is more money than most jiu-jitsu athletes actually make in prize money in their entire careers.
Yeah. Do you think he's just gonna
In prize money, right? Because you don't make anything from like worlds, or you don't make any, or very little.
Do you think he's bargaining, like, trying to find a bargaining point by starting high, or do you think he's just trying to price himself out entirely?
I think if he's doing that, he's going about it entirely the wrong way.
What's the right way?
The right way is to go find somebody, a promoter who's willing to, because right now, look, this match, if it happens, is going to be big.
Yeah.
You know, there's going to be like a place like Flow who's going to carry it. A lot of people, like the whole jiu-jitsu world is going to come and watch this.
Yeah.
This is like Conor McGregor versus I don't know who,
Floyd Mayweather.
whatever, right? It's going to be people are going to come and watch.
I think he knows that.
He does, but the way you negotiate, the thing that gives you, and he can do this, the thing that gives you maximum leverage is to go out and say to another promoter, what will you give me? What will you give us to have this match before Abu Dhabi or after Abu Dhabi?
What, you think they would put it on privately?
Well, no. What you do is you go and you kind of start to negotiate, right? And you go to, maybe you couldn't do it to Flow because they're already connected to Abu Dhabi, they have a contract, but you could go to somebody else and say,
I don't know, you'd run the risk of getting your fighter who's banned from ADCC.
I don't know. Maybe you're right. Maybe, they were like, listen, if you won't, if you're not going to come, because they're not under contract with Abu Dhabi, right? There's no, because they don't know what did they set? They set up the old and the new, right? I don't think there's a contract between those two guys. There may be an understanding that, hey, you two have to, but I don't think they're under.
Yeah, that's just if they.
It's like a gentleman's understanding, if anything.
I mean, who else would put it on though? Like Fight to Win? I don't think they have that kind
Fight
of.
to Win. But here's the thing: it's not like there are people out there who can't. I mean, Gordon, first of all, has some cash, right? He's always bragging about how much cash he has, right? But they all have backers.
Yeah.
They have people that can come in, and now the thing is that one of their big backers is the guy from Abu Dhabi.
Yeah.
So he's obviously not going to compete with himself, right? He's not going to put the money in.
Yeah. But he's not financially involved with ADCC, I heard. Anymore.
Is that true?
No.
Has he moved away from it?
I don't know, that's just what I heard.
I mean, who knows, right? We don't know what the real financial arrangements are. But you do have guys within both organizations, like the guy who owns Kasai is a Henzo Gracie student.
Yeah. I mean, but even if you have it,
And he's loaded, and there's a lot of guys at Henzo's that
It's
are
so,
like
like,
ridiculously rich.
just because you're ridiculously rich, like you're only ridiculously rich if you don't pay millions of dollars for grappling matches. It's still not worth it. Like,
Well, you could make it worth it, right? You could build a whole card around it.
you have to make back $2 million.
Well, I mean, this is the point, right? I don't think that anyone is ever going to make $1 million off of broadcasting or streaming or grappling.
Like, it's
Even
not like
the guy Mo Jassim or whatever his name, forgive me if I'm saying your name wrong, or his name wrong. I don't think he's watching this. That would be awesome. But I mean, he said that like that is orders of magnitude greater than the entire Abu Dhabi tournament makes.
Yeah.
Right? They're not making $1 million. The Sheikh is not holding this or sponsoring this so that he can make money. It's a money. It sounds like it's a money losing venture to me, done out of like the goodness of.
I mean, I think when it began, maybe, but like now it's big enough. It's probably self-sustaining. Don't you think?
I mean, again, I don't know what the pool of prize money actually is, but
I mean, it's not $1 million, so that's
yes.
helped a lot. And they get a lot of viewership, and
Flow charges $25 a year for like the entire thing. Like I can watch cheerleading on Flow, right? Like the amount of money, they have like 25 Flow trainers, different sports.
they have flow cheerleading.
Yeah, they flow cheer.
That's cool.
I'm not making that up.
Weird.
Flow may be doing pretty well, but I don't think they're doing those kind of numbers.
Yeah.
For jiu-jitsu. So, all right, $1 million for the match, or Andre's not going to show. What do you think about that? He's been saying some crazy stuff. I mean, he's been talking,
How old is Andre right now?
Gotta be in his 30s.
33 or something?
30s, yeah. I don't know exactly. I mean, he's been around he's been operating at a high level for a long time. He's got a lot of miles.
A lot of miles.
But he just beat he just beat Philippe Pena pretty bad in the last
Yeah, but that took a camp. Like he had to camp up.
Yeah, and he did that.
And he destroyed himself for that,
Okay.
all for that 5 minutes. Did it add anything to him? Like, did it make his academy bigger, better by doing the fight?
Well, yes.
It's enough to make it worth the damage.
I mean, he decided that it was because he did it.
All right.
I don't know whether retrospectively.
Yeah. So retrospectively.
Every year, like to me, you have like jiu-jitsu schools and jiu-jitsu athletes have a very short shelf life, right? Every year that you have a champion from your school or a high-profile win from your school is, you probably buy 2 more years of relevance. Seriously, and every year that you don't have that is another year towards obscurity. Or a battle for attention. If you don't have athletes from your school consistently going out and winning, it hurts your bottom line.
Yeah, Atos has those though.
No, they have it stable.
Yeah.
But but they don't have. They have great athletes. Okay, I'm not going to talk about athletes, but they don't have. I don't think they don't have guys. They have a couple guys that could be like. I think JT Torres could be. I mean, he's amazing. He could be a star, but he's very quiet. He's very quiet.
He's also not really in the main stable anymore. Like he's
Yes.
already opened his own academy. Like I don't think
Yes.
he's that focused on.
But he still goes and wins.
He's still.
I'm just saying, if you look at like Hulk, he's amazing, but he's not like a flag bearer, shall we say?
Yeah.
Like the thing about Andre is Andre has the charisma that carries a school, that carries an organization, and he goes out and he wins. I mean, he's the standard bearer, the flag bearer. When you don't have that guy, I mean, just think of like Henzo's before Gordon Ryan. Gary Tonin was still around back then, and he was doing well, but they did not blow up until they started winning with Gordon. And he put them on the map, right, in terms of their competitive success.
Really?
Yeah. Nobody has won like Gordon since Marcelo Garcia.
Yeah, but
At Abu Dhabi.
He didn't put them on the map though.
Well, what I mean by
Like
that.
Eddie Cummings did a lot of work, wasn't it Eddie?
Yes, Eddie was very good, but he never won.
He wasn't the best of the best, but
He was very good.
he was.
There's the thing is that Eddie is quiet. He's not.
The worst.
I don't mean, what?
That's the worst.
It's, you need to have somebody that is willing to talk on camera.
Really?
And say things and put themselves out there.
I
Right?
guess.
And, and you can get away with, like, not doing that when you're winning everything, right? Like, Rafa Mendez never really, as far as the American kind of jiu-jitsu press, if you will, he
Yeah.
wasn't really talkative. But, he went out and just killed everybody, and tapped everybody for years, I mean, he doesn't need to talk so much. But it's interesting to me that AOJ has not really broken through in the no-gi scene.
Oh, they still have like 5 to 10 years.
Well, this is the thing, like, nobody's really talking about, I mean, AOJ and the gi they have a bunch of young guys that are really good.
Yeah, we still have like years
But-
until the AOJ crop. First that's coming
But
in.
no-gi, like, you see, like, guys like Roberto Jimenez, you see the Rotolo twins, you see Nicky Ryan, you see Cobrini Jr. There's no time, to build up somebody till they're 25, because the kids are 17, with to the Tackett brothers, Cody Steele. You have all these, like, teenagers out there, like, winning world championships.
The Mendez brothers just has like, don't they just have like 11 and 12-year-olds right now?
No, they have black belts.
Some, but like
They have Jonathan Alves, they have Tynan Dalbra, these are gi guys. Now they're good, I mean, don't get me wrong, like, they're really good, they're amazing, but they're stuck in that kind of like gi world, which is not a high profile thing anymore,
like,
compared to gi.
The Mendez brothers are still really, really good in no-gi.
Who?
Mendez brothers.
Yeah, but they're done, they're retired.
Yeah, but I'm talking about like their first crop of people, because how long has it been, when did they first start focusing on their academy? Like 2012?
Yeah, it's been a couple of years, yeah.
And what's it now? So it's been like 10 years.
Yes.
Right? So the kids who started when they were 5, they're like 15, 16 now.
Yeah.
They're on the cusp, right? And so
But
like,
they've already started to win.
Those was like the first, not generation, but the first year of people. Right? So I think like over the next like 5 to 10 years, like that first level of like kids is just going to be like.
I think that's right. But they're not in the conversation right now
Not
because
yet.
nobody's winning for them
Yeah.
on the big stage.
Yeah, not yet.
It's kind of like there are a lot of good fighters in the UFC, but the guys who get paid are the ones who are good fighters and can talk.
Yeah.
Conor McGregor's, they hype the matches. They're popular, they bring, and they win. So, like when you think about Galvao or Atos without Galvao being competitive, he's just a coach. He's just, running the.
He's a good coach though.
No, I'm not saying he's not a good coach, but you need to have guys that either are winning everything, or you have to have somebody who is themselves winning everything. You need a flag bearer, is what I'm saying. You need a flag bearer who's a spokesman.
Yeah, but do they have to be a clown?
Is this something you would say with the clown question in prison?
What kind of question? I was just asking.
Do you have to be a clown?
Yeah, do you have to be a clown? Like, do you have to talk a lot? Do you have to be an entertainer in order to? Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's not one or the other. You have to kind of have to have both in a way. And I don't think you can have to be a clown. You just have to be like. You have to be like.
An actor.
You have to be a performer.
Performer, like a
You
clown.
have to be an entertainer. No, not like a clown. Michael Jordan was an entertainer.
Yeah.
He was a killer. He was an assassin. But he was also an entertainer. He entertained the crowd.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
But like.
And that is, people want to see that. They don't want to just see.
But he wasn't doing it to entertain the crowd.
Oh, yes.
No, he was.
Well, he was doing it to humiliate.
He
the
was
other
doing it
side.
to humiliate.
Yeah. Well, it can have a dual purpose.
I don't know. I really like. I don't know. At least like with Michael, that was like really pure in its intention, right? Like.
I think that. Mike, look. I think you probably. I don't think that it's one or the other necessarily. I think you can be doing multiple things at the same time.
Yeah.
And if you can kind of dunk on somebody to humiliate them in front of the crowd and entertain the crowd at the same time, like you kill 2 birds with 1 stone. That's great.
Yeah.
But I guess going back to the original point, I think that if Andre, once he ducks, once he retires, I think, I mean, Kane Duarte is very good, but I don't know that he is that kind of like, that standard bearer. You know what I mean? He could be.
Yeah.
He's pretty telegenic too, I would say. You know, and he's entertaining to watch. And he's incredible.
What does telegenic mean?
It means he looks good on television. Or, you know, yeah, telegenic. Like photogenic?
Is that like a way to get around saying that he's attractive?
Well, attractiveness is kind of like beauty. It's in the eye of the beholder.
Yeah. So like photogenic or telegenic, is that like beauty is in the eye of the television?
I mean, the person who looks good on TV.
But not in real life?
Maybe not. There are people who look good because of the lighting and because of the, you know, the set design and the costuming that look good on camera but don't necessarily look great in real life. It's kind of like models. If you ever see I don't know if you ever watch or look at People magazine when you're in the grocery store, and they always have a feature in there about like, this is what they look like in real life. And they always look terrible. Yeah. Right?
They're humans just like us.
Or they're like, oh, we caught so-and-so on the beach.
Yeah.
Oh, look at the cellulite, or you know, look at the gut this guy has. You know, they always do that. They love, or they say, oh, they're such a great natural beauty. You know, they don't need makeup. Either way, you know, they're still comparing you to your camera presence, right? All right. So, do you think that Andre is just negotiating, trying to run up a price, or do you think he's going to duck? Do you think he's going to show up?
I feel like
and fight, or compete, or is he gonna like this is just an excuse for him to dodge?
If I were him.
No, what do you think he's gonna do? Not if you were here. I know what you would do. You'd show up because you're always game as hell.
I'm putting myself in his shoes.
All right.
Right. So like.
You're Andre got off the day.
Right. I don't know. Like I feel like he's picking a price point that makes it worth it to him. Like, because it's gonna take a lot of work. It's going to possibly damage his body. Like he could get really hurt. Like he's not old, but he's getting up there, and you know he has a lot to lose.
What does he have to lose?
Reputation mostly.
Okay, so that's so.
Because like right now he's not undefeated, but he's like at the top. He is the reigning king, and I know it's like King Ryan, but like Galvao is the peak, I would say. The last thing that is remaining that Gordon hasn't accomplished yet.
He's the last mountain.
Yes.
All right. So here's another question. Mm-hmm. Do you think that it looks better for your legacy to go out and have that epic battle that everybody wants to see, the fans all want to see, your team all wants to see it, the other team, well, they want to have it. Gordon Ryan wants that match, right? He wants to climb the mountain, right?
Are we assuming that we win or lose?
Either way, we don't know. Right? You just go out, you have the match, maybe you lose. Let's say it's 50-50, let's say maybe it's 60-40, you're gonna lose. Whatever it is, you might lose. There's a chance you're gonna look. It's Gordon Ryan. There's a chance you're gonna lose. Yeah. Well, I'm looking into that. Or you go into these negotiations, you wind up not competing because you know nobody wants to pay you $1 million. What do you think looks better today? Now this is the community at large. I mean, I don't know whether
so this is me only considering my legacy.
Yeah, like I'm standing on top of the mountain, and then I see somebody climbing up, and I either give that person the match or I step off the mountain.
And legacy is like the number one thing in my life.
Well, you said he has a lot to lose in it, so it's reputation. So if you're, I'm assuming that is one factor is the fear of losing face or reputation in front of all the fans, right?
I doubt it's fear. I don't think it's fear. It's like the
apprehension, nervousness, whatever. The possibility.
No, it's like the amount of work, the amount of the amount of bull crap that he's gonna have to put his body through.
Yeah, he's gonna have to work.
It's gonna be a lot. And
yes.
I don't know. It's like.
But so this is the question: does it look better to the legacy for you to step off the mountain after making up this kind of high, negotiation demand, or does it look better to just be like, I'm gonna, and win or lose? Like, let's say you lose.
It's 50-50.
Well, let's say you lose, but it's a battle, right? Like
no, because he could argue that he's earned that price point.
Yeah, you can, but I'm not arguing. I'm not.
And that goes into his legacy.
I'm not.
So
I'm
not. So
set
it's
this
not
aside.
like it's
Set
like
this aside. It's like the Hickson thing. You know, Hickson used to do this all the time, right? It's not worth me getting out of bed if you're not going to pay me $1 million. And you know what? I have to say, I'm a fan of Hickson Gracie, but I wish that he had gone and fought Sakuraba. I wish he had. I think that his reputation did suffer. In a lot of people's eyes, because he was seen as dodging the match, because he had, you know, he was trying to protect this undefeated record, that he was the undefeated family champion, you know, 400-0, you know, whatever, and he had seen Sakuraba, you know, beat every single one of his brothers and cousins. That, I mean, Sakuraba beat like 5 Gracies. And so I think it's going to leave a little bit of a bitter taste in a lot of people's mouths if he doesn't end or wind up fighting the current best of the best.
Yeah.
I mean, like I was saying,
but either way, like fans are gonna forget in like 2 years anyway, and it might not be worth it to.
No one will ever forget the fact that Hodger came back and beat Buchecha. Like that was like, and he took a big risk.
I forgot.
I mean, that's always like, to me, that was, I mean, I thought Buchecha was gonna kill him, to be honest. I thought, because he just, you know, Buchecha was 10-time world champion at the peak of his career.
Yeah.
And Hodger's coming back after, you know, going through, you know, MMA, not having a great MMA, I mean, he had a good MMA career, but not spectacular.
Yeah.
You know, and I thought that was like, in a way, I always thought that Hodger was coming back to like, redeem himself.
And are people to this day discussing the Hodger versus?
We're doing it right now. We're doing it right now. It lives on in my heart, Tevin.
And yours. I don't know.
Because you don't even care about Hodger Gracie.
Yeah,
you don't have any love for Hodger Gracie.
Like that match didn't do anything as far as my perspective on him. It doesn't make him look better or worse.
I think it makes him look awesome.
Yeah.
But you know.
But did he win?
He did win.
All right.
But you know what? Here's the thing I believe is that you don't. You know, I know if you have an undefeated record, if you're Floyd Mayweather and that is your calling card or your, you know, like your crowning achievement is you're undefeated, and in a way, really, that he is justified or I think marketed himself. You know, this idea of like I'm going to fight these guys and I'm going to be such a jerk that you're going to pay to watch them finally knock me out. Right? I mean, he's made a lot of money off that kind of pitch, right?
That wouldn't be this match.
No, but I guess my larger point was, I don't think anyone loses anything by losing a jiu-jitsu match.
Yeah, but we're not talking about that. It's not like he's showing up 5 minutes before the match. He's like, oh yeah, like sure, $1 million, like that'd be great. He needs to spend like a year before.
So does everyone.
Yeah.
Everyone that goes to Abu Dhabi spends a year, if not longer, preparing for Abu Dhabi. It's a 2-year cycle, so everyone is spending and investing a lot of time.
Yeah.
So
and for Andre, it's getting less and less worth it, I would imagine.
Okay, so why doesn't he just retire? Why didn't he just retire?
Because he might get $1 million.
He's not going to get $1 million.
Yeah, and if he doesn't, at least he could say, hey, you know, you guys didn't want to pay me? Fine. You know, I'm just going to be over here in my rocking chair, looking at all my students do well. You know, and he can do that. That's fine. If you think it's worth it, give him the money. If you don't.
No one in the history of Abu Dhabi has made this kind of play.
I know, but he's Andre, so he can do whatever he wants.
Well, no, that's undoubtedly, but do you think that his reputation is going to suffer?
I think he's still going to be Andre at the end of the day.
He'll still be, no one will take away, no one will take away like all the amazing achievements that, you know, Andre Galvao has, you know, accumulated over the long course of his career. But having said that, do you think there'll be a lot of people who'll be disappointed if that match doesn't happen?
Yeah, but who cares about people?
Well, don't athletes have an obligation to their fans?
I think Andre has an obligation to his students.
Okay, don't you think his students will want to see him compete?
I think his students respect him no matter what.
But that's fine, but don't you think they want to see him compete?
I've seen people argue that he doesn't have to compete because he's earned the spot that he has, and
yes, but don't you think that they will be?
He's gotten to the point.
You got to answer the question. Either yes
or no. He's
no.
allowed to make like his little demands. He's Andre Galvao.
No, I'm not disputing that. I'm asking you. Don't you think that some of his students will be disappointed if he doesn't compete?
I don't know. Probably.
Okay.
Okay.
So that's a yes.
Oh yeah. Why? Why are you asking?
I'm just, so what I'm saying is like, I mean, I guess it's,
Like, why does it matter?
why does any of it matter?
Well, like,
Why do you try to win something, right?
do you
Like,
think
why
that
do you put yourself
Galvao
out there?
does Galvao compete to have fans and to satisfy the needs of his fans, or does he compete for other reasons?
I don't know.
If he competes to have fans, then yeah, he should probably do it. But I don't think that's why he competes. He's always pointing to the sky when he wins. He's never like pointing to the crowds. You know,
He does point to the crowd too.
probably, but I don't know.
He's doing it for Jesus. is
Guy
what
really
you're
likes
saying.
Jesus. Like I'm not trying to say that like Jesus is the anything, but like
I think Jesus is a code word,
but-
isn't it? Didn't
but
we
he-
establish that?
no, that's not something. But you know, he's very Christian. Like,
Yeah, but what did that mean?
and I
So
think
you're saying
like,
he's doing it for the Lord, for the
some
glory
people
of
do
Jesus.
things for the
All
glory
right.
of Jesus, and some people also happen to get a really good paycheck out of it. And I think like in this case, I don't know. I met the guy.
I
talked
think
to him.
that-
I haven't had like
I
a
will say-
conversation with him, but he's one of the nicest people I've ever met.
Regardless, I'm sure he was very nice. I don't mean any disrespect. I'm not saying anything directly to him, right? I'm not saying that it reflects anything, or I don't know his motivations. I don't know what's in his head. All I know is what he says on Instagram. Maybe it's a joke. Maybe it's a way to hype up this match so that more people come in. You know, maybe it's a way to get into Gordon's head. Maybe, I mean, there could be a million like ways that he's trying to game this. You know, maybe he's super smart, and what he's doing is he's putting it into Gordon's head right now that he's not going to show up, so that Gordon doesn't train as hard.
No.
And then at the last minute, he's been training his heart out the whole time, and he's going to be like, no, you know what? I changed my mind. I don't want any money. I do it for free, for honor and for God. I think that might be what he's doing. This is just gamesmanship.
He doesn't.
Here's
He
what
just
I'm gonna
doesn't
say.
want to do it.
I've been
unless
wrong.
He gets
I've
$1
been
million.
wrong. I've been wrong about everything that I've ever. I thought Hadra was going to lose. I thought Rodolfo Vieira was going to kill King Duarte. You know, I am terrible at these predictions, but this is my prediction. Andre Galvao will fight at Abu Dhabi, and he will fight and face Gordon Ryan.
I bet they'll settle it.
That is my. I don't know how, but the money, whatever. Andre Galvao is going to show up at Abu Dhabi because he is not. Here's the thing: people can talk whatever smack they want about Andre Galvao, right? Whatever people do. People. I mean, they're on their way. They're on his Instagram right now, being like, "I have no respect for you. You're a coward."
What sort of things would people say about Andre Galvao?
A lot of bad things. I mean, whatever. Stop making fun of me. I'm not going to say any of those. But you know what? I don't think he's a coward. I think he is. I think he's a gamer, and he's going to show up, and he's going to try to beat up Gordon Ryan like he did Felipe.
All right, my prediction. I think that they'll settle at a price somewhere between 250 and 500.
So you think he's going to show up?
And then they'll use that as like this is biggest fight ever,
Yes.
biggest purse
Yes.
ever, fight of the century.
Yes.
And then they'll be all right.
There's no way that Andre Galvao doesn't show up to this fight. This is the capstone of his career. I don't think that you could get anybody more motivated. Like, I'm getting fired up thinking about Andre Galvao getting ready for this match.
They could probably start like a GoFundMe and pull up the money for this.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yep.
But yeah, I
Yep.
don't know. I would say that.
Can you imagine if Andre Galvao beats Gordon Ryan in a super fight?
What about it?
I mean,
Nothing changes.
I mean,
What happens?
it's just
Like
like
going to
that
academy,
is
going
like
to-
when I think of Andre Galvao and all the amazing, like the history that he's made in jiu-jitsu. I mean, he's an amazing guy in jiu-jitsu. We could sit here and spend an hour just talking about all the amazing things that Andre Galvao has done over the years, right? I mean, he's an amazing guy.
Like what?
Like him beating the hell out of Eddie Bravo after Eddie Bravo, or was that Andre? No, that was what's his name? No, wasn't it Andre that beat up Eddie Bravo?
Who? What?
You don't know who Eddie Bravo is?
I know who Eddie Bravo is, obviously.
maybe I'm thinking of Checkmate, that guy.
Who's that guy?
I'm always forgetting their names. I think it was Andre Galvao.
He beat him up?
Not beat him up, but he ran up 1,000 points. Let me see if I can look it up.
I don't recall.
Let me see.
my tattoo.
Oh, Leo Vera.
Leo Vera.
That's what I was thinking of. My bad. Yeah, because that's a totally different weight class. I don't know what else.
Did you meet that guy?
Huh?
Who's the guy who came in and trained and was really nice?
Yeah.
That was Leo?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, it was like, because they're totally different weight class. I don't know why I was thinking Andre.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think this is the final match for like Andre Galvao.
No.
Just because like I think he's gonna be motivated to come in and like show the young gun what's up.
Nah.
No, you don't think so?
I don't know.
And he put a hurting on.
I kind of do
He
wish.
put a hurting on Felipe Pena.
I want Andre to like take a really big like a strong moral stance. Like this is what jiu-jitsu is all about. Like acai and respect. And then Gordon's like, no, we talk big game and we do big jiu-jitsu over here. And you know,
Big boy jitsu.
like a clash of culture.
Uh-huh.
That's what I want. So it becomes like a symbolic thing. We could do that.
Yeah, but they're gonna have a match, right?
Yeah, but like it would actually decide like the direction of the overall
Oh, okay.
culture. Like,
so all the trash talkers have to leave.
Yeah,
with
like
jiu-jitsu.
if Gordon wins,
It's like a get out of town match.
If Gordon wins, then like trash talking is the thing. Like it works. So you can get into Andre's head and beat Andre, right? But if Andre wins, then it's all like acai and Jesus will get you to victory. And like both sides, it's a really good story either way. But I don't know. I'm on.
You're on the Jesus, the acai and Jesus side.
I mean, I'm not personally. I have a complicated relationship with Jesus, but I do respect Andre's like at least like ability to maintain his level of devotion or perceived level of devotion. Like it's not like we're getting any like we were mentioning earlier like tales of his promiscuity.
Not yet.
Not yet.
It hasn't broken yet.
It hasn't broken
Give
yet.
it a couple years.
Good for him. You know, like he's
busy training. So.
He's been able to maintain it, and that's cool. And not a lot of people can do that, even if it is or isn't anything. You know.
Yes.
But
eventually the facade crumbles.
But I think it is legitimate. I don't know. It's just if I were to guess.
I don't know. I mean, I don't care.
Yeah.
Either way, it doesn't mean anything.
It would just be weird to fake a religion for your entire life. I know some people have done it.
Well, but you see this all the time, right? Like you see every sports figure thanks Jesus when they win something.
Yeah.
Right? Everyone. They're probably cheating on their wives and like cheating on their taxes.
You can thank Jesus and do bad things.
Well, that's my point, right?
Like,
it's all that's fake. It's fake.
No. It doesn't mean it's fake. I mean, some people are hypocrites. And
let's just say there's some cognitive dissonance.
Yeah, sure.
Right?
Like,
some false consciousness
of
going
course,
on.
people compartmentalize their lives all the time.
Well, but you know what that's called?
The word you just said before. What did you say?
Hypocrisy.
Yeah. And it's,
I'm compartmentalizing.
But being religious doesn't mean you're automatically a hypocrite just because some people who are religious also are hypocrites. You know, you can like.
No, you're right. There probably are some maybe saints out there who really do.
Not saints, but
well,
like
that's what you are. I mean, if you
people
actually
who are like trying their best to be decent people, and I think Andre's one of those guys.
I don't know him, so I don't know. I've never met him. He seems like a pleasant enough fellow.
He's been nice.
I definitely wouldn't say anything bad about him.
Nice to me. He hasn't yelled at me yet. So
give him a chance. When he sees this video, he's gonna like get mad.
Maybe he'd remember me. That'd be weird. Probably.
I don't forget a face. No, I think that match happens. There's too much on it.
It would be weird if it didn't. Yeah.
It would be dumb.
But I could see why Andre wouldn't want to.
I don't think there's any chance that he doesn't want to. I think he's just messing with Gordon, to be honest.
Well, this is the first time he's put off the match with Gordon, right? Because they tried to call him out earlier, and
well, then it was COVID.
Yeah, they were like, if you want to match with him, like you need to beat whoever it was.
Yes.
And then earn it. And now he's like, now that he's earned it, he's like, all right, like $1 million now. And so it's I just imagine.
I just don't think that he's really afraid of Gordon Ryan.
Well, I don't know. I think with COVID especially, like he probably hasn't had the same like level of training that he's used to, and so like.
Oh, neither has Gordon.
Gordon's young.
Gordon is young. That's true.
Weird. It's weird. I don't like him.
You don't like Gordon Ryan? You don't like his public persona.
I did like him when he came in.
Yeah, he was nice. He was very quiet. This was pretty
like,
out.
I actually kind of vibe with it, but it's I don't know. I have mixed feelings about it. He was nice.
He was definitely very quiet and mild mannered and very polite.
Surprisingly thoughtful.
Yeah,
But,
yeah. You know, he's a super smart guy. I don't know about super smart, but he's smart. He's a smart guy.
He's thoughtful.
He can say thoughtful and smart things.
He puts effort in when,
You know.
when it's.
He doesn't strike me as a non-intelligent person. Let's put it that way. Like some people say things or do things, and you're just like, that person's an idiot.
He said some things that I don't necessarily agree with that might.
In person
if
or?
no, not in person.
No, on his. That's all.
You're right.
To me, that's all public persona stuff.
God, but like,
I don't
why
know
does
that.
your
He might
public
be-
persona have to be that
Obnoxious.
not obnoxious? Just like I don't know.
Hey, it's not for everyone.
Evil.
It's
all-
very polarizing. He's a very polarizing persona. He's definitely going down the
I don't
Kobe Covington / Conor McGregor / you
I
know.
don't get why it's cool to pretend to be an asshole for your career in this case, but like
I'll tell you why.
I couldn't pretend to be an asshole when I'm teaching. Like
Yeah. No, but I don't think he is. And I don't think, well, so there's a difference though, right? Like if you look at it, this actually makes a lot of sense to me, right? If you look at how much money, you know, when you play that persona, the kind of loyalty that you attract, right? You make a lot of money off of that.
from other like butthole people. And I am one of those people.
We said we weren't going to get into politics, so anyway, I think.
It's like yeah, like sure you will get money, but like you are attracting
Well, let me
the
ask you-
worst types of people. to
Let me
your
ask you this
fans.
way. All right, let me ask you. Let's get back to the obligation that an athlete has to his or her fans.
Yeah.
You know, we're fans of athletes because what they do on the mat or on the field or whatever, right? So, do you think that an athlete has, you know, either an obligation or a strong incentive to give the fans what they want?
Wasn't this my question that we opened with?
No, that was like role models.
Oh.
This isn't role model. This is, you know, your fans. Like if I'm an Andre Galval fan, I'm probably not a Gordon Ryan fan.
This was the question.
I
just
want
mixed it up.
to see Andre Galval shut Gordon Ryan up.
Yeah, but okay.
And if I'm a Gordon Ryan fan,
Uh-huh.
I'll want to see Gordon Ryan shut Andre Galval up.
Uh-huh. Do you have $1 million? Don't answer that.
No, not for that. No.
Yeah. So like, you know, what you think doesn't matter.
Well, but if enough people think it has an impact on your brand, and
Yeah.
your- and
Are
your
all of those people willing to spend $5?
if people start thinking you're a chicken, and then they stop subscribing to your YouTube channel or whatever,
Anyone who in an argument says that Andre Galval is a chicken is just gonna like, it's an easy thing to refute. Like, just look at the rest of his career.
yeah, but that was before he was faced with somebody who was like as good as Gordon Ryan.
Okay.
I'm not saying that you were a
Tell that
chicken,
to
Mr. Galval.
Tell that to Galval.
Say
No,
Galval,
I'm
Master
not-
Galval. I'm not saying
If you have such
I'm
strong
pretending to
feelings
be
about it.
an ignorant fan,
You know,
an ignorant Gordon Ryan
If you're
fan
gonna
who
take
would make that argument.
if you're gonna take a moral stance on this and that like, you know, he owes the fan something, then as a fan you should let him know.
I'm not. I'm
go on your
I'm
Facebook.
posing this purely as a
Just go
hypothetical.
on your Facebook. Your
Don't make
like,
it.
public
Don't
profile.
make this personal
Just
to
like
me because it's
samurai
not.
logo in the background, and you let him
This
know
is just a
exactly
way for
what
you to
you think.
avoid answering the question by trying to smear me.
I don't know. I don't think. I think as far as like being human, one should do as they think others should do. You know, like golden rule type stuff. Like, if you're in the public eye, you're a role model, whether or not you want to be. And as far as like whether or not he should do the match, I think that he should do it if he thinks that it's the best thing to do.
I mean, yeah,
And-
that's all fine.
But like, why would doing this match be the best thing to do?
I think if he's got to be like, look, if like I'm not gonna fault him for saying, hey, I want money. Okay, everybody wants money. It's not. There's no harm in asking, so to speak, right? You might get it. You're right. Like, I demand. Maybe I really want 500,000, but I'm going to demand $1 million, and we'll work our way down to where I really would accept. You know, like you can't fault for somebody for negotiating a bigger payday, right? They should get paid. They probably should get paid a lot more than 50,000. And that's a very. I mean, I don't know what the.
Shit's a weird word. But
Well, I'm saying. I guess what I'm saying is that I wish, and I know the economics are not the same, right? I wish that jiu-jitsu athletes were paid like better paid professional athletes because they put in the work, right? They have the dedication, they put in the work, they take the risk. they should be paid, right? Ideally, just in my fantasy world where their skills are valued, right? I know that's not the world we live in. So I don't fault him for asking for money, demanding to be paid. Like there's no, that's not a problem. But, what I wouldn't like is if he's making this demand that he knows that, and he's making it because he knows that no one will satisfy it, and then it's like an escape hatch.
Yeah, but we can't be like, that's what he's doing.
We don't know.
If he's doing that, then that's bad. If he's not doing
Although, Gordon has never been shy about disclosing, negotiations. So, to the extent that Galvao doesn't back down, or they offer him, let's say they offer him $500K, he turns that down, then we're going to know that, $500K is an obscene amount of money for a jiu-jitsu match.
Yeah. But I don't know. They paid how much for the Floyd and Conor fight?
But that's,
he's not even a boxer.
That's why I'm saying this is the economics are totally different.
Yeah.
Floyd Mayweather brings, whenever he shows up to fight, he brings, this is why he demands so much money of the purse, because he's like, my brand is what brings everyone here.
Sure.
Right? Now, Conor McGregor had a pretty, because he had so much fame and so many fans from UFC and MMA, he could bring a lot of people to the gate, to the show, to the, buying the pay-per-views. That's why he got paid, right? Because he brought people, he brought bodies, he brought eyeballs. I don't know what the overall audience was for the Mayweather-Conor McGregor fight, but I'll bet you it was huge. Millions upon millions of people all over the world who paid to watch that fight.
Yeah, because it was a spectacle.
Well, whatever. The fact of the matter is, those two people came together and 20 or 40 or 100 million people were like, we want to watch it for $65 or $100.
Yeah.
And so then when they carve up that pie, they both wind up with a shit ton of money.
Yeah.
Right? Jiu-Jitsu, how many people do you think watch Abu Dhabi?
I don't even watch Abu Dhabi.
You don't. It's not even, it's a good point, right? Out of all the jiu-jitsu audience, all the jiu-jitsu people, probably 20%, if that, actually watch Abu Dhabi.
Yeah.
So I don't know how many people in the world do jiu-jitsu. What do you think, 100,000 people maybe?
Oh, more than that.
200,000?
More than that. I don't know. I forget what the last Reddit count was on BJJ, but that's usually a good indicator of how much it's growing.
Yeah.
I don't know. I forget. Cameron, do you know? Are you up there?
Let's see if he's still tuned in to our little. I could try to find him too.
Can you just go to RBJJ and
what is it called?
r/BJJ, and then find the number of subscribers, and then we can extrapolate based on that.
It's not going to be. I don't know how to get to that.
It doesn't matter.
But
a lot, and it's growing exponentially, I think. Kind of. It's a little less than exponential.
So you're saying of all the people, 1 billion? What?
No,
Here, Gumby's watching. What's up, Gumby?
It's not a billion. Oh, hello, Gumby.
That's Gumby who said that.
I'm a scorpion. I'm glad we're providing some entertaining content.
Matt Hughes. Oh, look at this. I got Gumby's running. Galvao said he's going back to MMA. Matt Hughes, I like him. Strikes me as a bit awkward, actually. Grappling's a weird sport. This is from Gumby. The $1 million purse isn't really a sustainable business plan. How can you convince one person to basically donate that purse? And it's a donation, right?
Yeah.
You're not going to make any money back. All right. Are you asking me what my IBJJF card number is?
Wait, what?
Gumby's asking what my IBJJF card number is. Cameron says there's 250,000 subscribers.
250, yeah. That's a good number.
Not really.
What? That's a good number compared to what it used to be. I remember when we crossed 100,000 back in the day. Forget when actually.
All right, my number on my IBJJF card is.
Why?
Because I think Gumby may be suggesting that these are. I wonder who number one is. My number is 162. Wait.
They do a numeric.
162, 643. So not everyone on Reddit is probably a.
So at least 160,000.
I beat you, Jeff. Yeah. Gumby's about 25, 250 something. Yeah, I mean, the numbers at Abu Dhabi are not, or Jiu-Jitsu in general, are not, do not support. And I don't know how many Flow Grappler subscribers there are, you know?
I don't know. Maybe they should drum it up as like a East Coast, West Coast thing. Like East Coast Jiu-Jitsu versus...
What they need to do is go full WWE and have like a confrontation between like Andre Galvao and Gordon Ryan on the side of who's number one at a Flow Grappling event, and really try to break through to.
Well, I think
you know what they should do?
It needs to be Jesus.
This is what This is what they should do. This is perfect. They should have an MMA match.
MMA.
I mean, that would, if you got Dana White to put that on as like a special exhibition MMA fight.
It's like assembling the dream team and having them all play baseball.
I like your sports reference there.
Thanks.
That was good.
I've been reading about Chris Mullins.
Why have you? Oh, he's amazing. Have you been reading about Kareem?
Well, you said that we were going to have this argument about who was the GOAT, Michael Jordan versus Kareem.
Yes.
And then I was going to sideline you with all the reasons why Chris Mullins is actually the GOAT.
Chris Mullins was really good, but he had a short career, or a shortened career, abbreviated career, because he was an alcoholic.
Yeah, but the one
But he was amazing, but he wasn't Michael Jordan amazing.
The one game I went to, he was on fire that night.
Oh, no, he had games where he was amazing.
Yeah, and it was like...
He was like the poor man's Larry Bird.
Yeah, but it always like, that was always my example of like, every person can have their night. Like, if you, like, because
Chris Mullins was a blue chip.
But like, I'd never heard of him as a kid. Like, it was like Rick Smits, Reggie Miller.
And you heard of Rick Smits before as a kid?
I identified with tall people.
Okay.
And so like, you know, there were just like so many of these other guys on the Pacers team that like I heard of and paid attention to, and like, it's Chris Mullins, like, okay. And then like, I'm sure I had a pencil with his face on it or something. And so I went to this game with my dad, and he just kept making.
Yes.
Just, like, it just kept happening, and I was like, who is this guy? And like, from then on, I just like always knew his name.
You just knew Chris Mullins. You saw him blow up the building one night.
Yeah, one night.
Yeah,
that was great.
No, he was an amazing ball player, but he was a total alcoholic too.
Yeah.
I mean, he sobered up and, you know, had a comeback of sorts, but he definitely did not reach his full potential, shall we say.
Well, that's kind of what got me into like, I wonder if he like had reached.
But he had always been an amazing player, right? I mean, he had been a great player in high school. He'd been a great college player.
Yeah.
And he was a very good pro too. He just fell off the wagon, so to speak, and got run over by it.
Yeah.
For a couple of years.
But that one night.
But it's tough to be in Indiana, you know. Like,
Hey.
You can't really blame him. He was a New York guy.
No, he played for.
No, he was from New York.
Oh.
Yeah, he played for Golden State too.
How do you know these things?
Huh?
It's like
I
basketball.
remember watching him play in college.
Your receptacle for information.
I mean, he was a, you know, a good guy back in the 80s when I was huge into basketball.
Anyway, he's the GOAT.
Chris Mullin is not, or why don't I get Chris Muller? He's a baseball player. Chris Mullin. Oh, there he is, and he coached too. Two-time Olympic gold medalist and two-time Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame inductee.
Oh yeah, that's why I remembered him.
I mean, he was, he was on St. John's, which is a New York school. They used to call them the Redmen, which is incredibly racist.
The what?
The Redmen.
Red Men?
Yeah, I think so.
He was multiple people?
No, because St. John's, their nickname was the Redmen. St. John's Redmen. It was a Native American kind of, and then they changed it to Red Storm. Let's see what they said. Yeah, Redmond to Red Storm. Yeah.
Do you remember that Peter Pan song?
Which one?
What makes the red man red?
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of racist stuff going on in Disney. For sure. There's a lot of painfully racist and like terrible stuff going on in Disney movies.
Well, they haven't.
Like you know what always made me uncomfortable was the hyenas in the Lion King.
Why? Because you don't like.
Because they had a very distinct vernacular, shall we say?
What?
And so it was a very racist toned kind of.
I did not.
The bad guys were essentially black, you know, like that kind of thing.
The only thing I ever picked up was the Nazi undertones of the "Be Prepared" song, where they're all marching in step. It was like definite, like Nazi imagery.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Fun.
All right, guys. So we've settled the dispute. Andre Gavau will be fighting Gordon Ryan.
For somewhere between 250K and 500K.
I don't even think there's that kind of money.
They're gonna take a moralist stance on it. It's gonna be loving, humble, God-loving, God-fearing Andre versus the foul-mouthed, loathsome.
The heel.
The heel. Yes. Heel. We'll call it. And then
they've actually been setting this up for years. You know, they've if you go back 10 years, like I never knew Andre was really such a God-fearing lover of Jesus until about 5 years ago.
Nah, it's been.
I wasn't really paying much attention to his career.
I thought that was his thing since, I don't know. Since I've known of him, he's always been like the guy who really likes. I mean, his team is named after a book of the Bible. Like, that's something. I don't know. It's not nothing. It's something. Atos means acts. Jesus. I don't know. Some people like it. I don't know.
I mean, good. I just thought it was a cool name.
Do you think it's just as fake as Gordon's persona, or do you think it's like different?
I don't think either of them are fake. I think,
Really?
I mean, in terms of like 100% fake, I think at some point, you know, when you wear, even if it is fake, like assuming it's fake, at any point, at some point, if you wear that mask for long enough, it starts to become part of your
But do
identity.
you think that like Andre's thing is a mask, a persona as well?
I don't know, but given how much he's kind of talked about it, and he's always, I mean, I assume that it's maybe, even if it was fake, it's kind of at some point transformed into.
I think he's ever. I don't know.
I don't think it's fake. I mean, I'm not going to doubt this guy's religious conviction. I don't have any basis to do that. You know, I assume that he at least some part, you know.
I've never been to a seminar of his, and he was like, okay, like now we're going to talk about how to love God. He's been like, you know,
Yeah,
all about it, but he's not like.
It's not
you know,
proselytizing or
Yeah. And we had black belts on the team who weren't Christian or evangelical.
I mean, I think, look, I mean, I assume that that's real. I mean, Gordon's a little bit, at least I've met Gordon and I've interacted with him, even though it was stardom, if you will. And, my take on that is, I don't think, again, I don't know, this is all speculation, but I think at some point when you adopt this persona, if that's what is happening, and you get such a positive response from so many people, at some point you start to adopt that persona as your own.
But he's also got a negative response to it too.
Well, maybe.
That's weird.
It's kind of like we were talking about Jim Jones the other day.
Yeah.
Where you're surrounded by people who just think you can do no wrong and you are the son of God, and they just praise you all the time. And even when you mess up, they still are there. Like,
you never answered my question yesterday.
What's that?
Like, what do you do at that point? Like, let's say you are Jim Jones and you got like a flock.
Yes.
What the hell do you do with them?
You take them to Bolivia and you have a
So you
suicide.
start a farm? Why
Well,
can't you just
his idea was that they were going to start like this utopia, right? That was the presumed mission, right? We're going to go where we can be free of all this terrible racism and capitalism.
But they had like jails and prisons and stuff in their compound.
Well, they still had. I don't know if that's true or not, but they probably had some people. You still had discipline within the organization.
Yeah.
They still had bad people. Like they had people. They would take in child molesters. They would take in, whomever. They really. They didn't abstain from taking or refuse to take people just because you had a criminal record. The working assumption was that the police were evil and the criminal justice system was racist and classist, and you know, that people who committed crime are doing so out of some sort of real or conscious or unconscious, you know, class struggle, right? So they would take anybody, but of course those people would come in. I remember watching or listening to one audio tape of them disciplining somebody who had tried to rape one of the members' daughters, who was like 12 or something.
What did they do?
They beat him up. I think they let him stay though, but they beat him up pretty bad. But they would never call the police, so they were not. They would, because they didn't. You know, that was their thing. Like, we won't call the cops on you, but we might, like, you know, threaten to castrate you or something, right? Like, that's there was definitely some of their own. They would mete out their own justice, but they wouldn't turn you over to the outside authorities. So what do you do, right? What do you do when you have that kind of? This is the thing, right? There's an old saying, right? Absolute power corrupts absolutely. Power, you know, power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. When you are in a position of power and you are not accountable to anyone or anything other than your own self, you know, I don't think that you can operate. Why? You know, because, I mean, these sound corny, like biblical types of things, but or concepts. But, you know, we're flawed human beings. Like, nobody is perfect. So when you're given absolute power with no accountability, you know, your flaws will emerge because there's nothing there to check them.
But why does distributing the power to a large group of flawed human beings make it better?
I mean, it just it makes it better in the sense that it prevents any one person from attaining complete domination of everyone else.
Unless all the...
You would assume, I mean, that's a good question. You assume that that is the lesser of the two evils. You know, one of the things that recommends authoritarian rule is that if you have a benevolent dictator or a benevolent leader,
it's awesome.
You know, or more or less benevolent, or at least they're limited in the sense of their whatever terrible things they want to do.
Yeah.
If they keep that more or less confined, like, you know, you can have a decently functioning society or group or organization. The problem is that the next person who comes in who holds, it's like North Korea. You know, at some point, I mean, North Korea is a great example, right? Like, if you just have this unchecked power to do whatever you want, it almost never ends well.
But like most like hierarchical organizations, like the person at the top still has to answer to the people on the bottom to some degree.
No, because, well, in like, truth, what you have is you have a board of directors.
Like, you have a CEO.
And the management answers. Sometimes the CEO is on the board. Sometimes, you know, the biggest investor is on the board. But you are still, well, here's the thing, right? Corporations are chartered by state governments, right? They're subject to judicial review. They're subject to, you know, to the laws. You know, even a CEO with, you know, basically a totally captured board at some point is going to be called to account if they step over too many lines. I mean, the example that comes to mind right now is like the NRA. You know, Wayne LePage, well, I don't know how to say his name, but the director, you know, essentially was using that as his own piggy bank. But the NRA is a not-for-profit that's registered under New York law, and that means the Attorney General has basically absolute power to review whatever they do there.
Yeah.
So, you know, there are no corporations, at least in the United States, that are totally, you know, where their CEOs have totally unchecked power, right? I mean, that's why Congress gets pissed off every so often and calls Mark Zuckerberg and Jeff Bezos to come and testify, you know, and threatens to break up their companies if they don't behave, right?
How do you break up a tech company?
Well, you have antitrust laws.
But like, it's a website.
No. Amazon is not just a
no,
website.
like Facebook.
Facebook is not just a website.
Not just a website, but like, it's not like you could.
That's like saying that
it's not like you could chop up Facebook and have like this company over here,
Yeah,
and be like your photos, and then this over here, like your events.
No, what you would do is, no, that's not what they're talking. They would say, all right, Facebook, you gotta divest Instagram. You gotta divest, I mean, I don't know, I think they own Instacart, whatever. There's different business divisions within, and they might say things like, okay, if you wanna have, you know, political advertising, there needs to be these types of restrictions, you know, like whatever. They might regulate it in that way.
That makes sense.
Same thing with like Google. They would slice up Google and say, okay, YouTube, you gotta get rid of them. And, you know, they have different advertising platforms, each one of these things. And they'd say, okay, this advertising platform has to be spun off, right?
Yeah.
I forget that there was a
VR.
What?
The VR headset. That was
Yeah, whatever. I mean, there's different. I mean, within any given company, you have different divisions, right? You have different operating units, and so what they would do is slice and dice, and say, you know, like for example, you know, Facebook right now has like marketplace, and that's a product line, and they could just be like, okay, that needs to be chopped off or shut
like,
down or whatever.
How do you stop them from like just talking to each other and like?
Because there's rules against collusion,
business.
unfair competition.
Really?
Yes.
Weird.
I mean, they still find ways to get around it, but you're
Right,
not
it's like-
allowed.
it's not
Like,
like-
so, for example, there was a case about Facebook, and I think it was Facebook, and Google essentially having this, like, or maybe it was Apple, or maybe all three, where they agreed not to poach each other's top engineers, and they were like, "No, you can't do that. That's, you know, that's illegal collusion, right?"
Huh.
So, you know, yeah, there are laws against. These are all sort of unfair competition
Yeah.
laws that they have to abide by. There's, you know, a form of consumer protection, but also employee protection, right? Like if I'm not happy at Google, and I'm an employee, you know, like it's not fair for Apple and Facebook to say like, no, we won't give Rich a job at our companies because we have this, you know, agreement.
Yeah.
All right, anyway, I'm gonna go home. I've had enough. We're not talking about Andre Gavale anymore, so. What's the code word for today? I mean, what is it?
Bark Ruffalo.
Bark Ruffalo? No, that's too close.
Bark Ruffalo.
We're gonna make it,
Bark Ruffalo.
we're gonna make it Andre.
Andre.
Andre is the code word for today. Gumby, thank you for tuning in. Cameron, thank you for tuning in. We'll see you guys next week. Oh. Wait a minute, let me get my thing.